But so it's like my career's existed sort of before social media like really took over.
Right.
And I've been on it for a while, and it's been fun to connect with friends. And it was sort of I made the choice of like, okay, I could like forget this, and I think I would still sort of survive in the industry, or I could like really embrace it. You know what I mean? And so I just made the conscious decision to really embrace it and to like view it as an aspect of my job. It's the version of networking. Like when I first moved to LA in 2006. I would hear it from a lot of people. They'd be like, oh, I love doing what I do, but I hate networking. I hate going to the party, shaking hands, doing this. And in my head, I'm always like, well, you have to do it, so you might as well find a way to like it. But I feel like social networking is that new version where people are like, oh, it's like, I gotta post, I gotta figure this out. And I'm like, it's just a thing you have to do now. You know what I mean? So I really, this past year, I took it as like a facet of my career that I'm expending energy just like I am in developing jobs and like working on different things. And now it's a component of what I do. And it's been really good. There's been a lot of opportunities that have come through social media, and so it's been exciting.
That's not bad, right? But
yeah.
were you that same guy that dreaded the clubs or dreaded that partying, or was that a burden to you?
It's hard to say because I made the decision as well when I moved there to find a way to like it. You know what I mean? Because I was like, I mean, it's
it's not a great situation.
Yeah, I mean, so it's like I think. You can be both sides. I think that everybody, when they're feeling good and like having a good time, they like meeting people, and like interaction is fun if the interaction's good. But like, sometimes you don't feel like getting out of bed, or like you're just like, oh, I gotta put on like my game face or whatever.
Yeah.
I just found a way to try to embrace it the best I could and try to look at like what the opportunity could be in those situations. And I mean, I definitely have like sat at home when I should have gone out many times, right?
Of course.
But I tried my best to like embrace anything that would help my career move forward.
Yeah,
so that was one of them, really.
Dude, I'm that guy too, man. Like I got my first and only party of 2019 in 2 days ago. So I'm good. I'm the same type of situation. We put on a party called Hush Music Party. So. Yo, Josh, you gotta come out, you do the podcast now, I'm like, all right, fine, whatever, I'll throw it on just one time. But you are super active on that shit, on all social media fronts. It's not just like an Instagram thing. You're also going hard on the vlogs, and they're produced on a super high level. When I think about vlogs, I kind of think about, like someone fairly unprofessionally just sitting there being like, blah, 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 blah. You're very like, your cuts are nice, your shots are nice, you have your angles, obviously all that shit like the back of your hand, but that's still gotta be a burden to you to like actually, okay, I'm producing this music video, this reel, this B-reel, whatever it is, and then I also have to produce a vlog. Is that like do you enjoy it or?
Oh, no.
You hate it?
No, I mean, okay, so like to be completely transparent is that I basically had a guy working underneath me this past year who I was like, he was like my employees as an editor. So for that, and I was doing a bunch of stuff with Jenna Dewan, and so he would cut my stuff, he would cut her stuff, and I would sort of like teach him. I mean, he was paid obviously, but I think a part of the idea was like he's trying to be a director and trying to learn as much as he can. So I mentored him a little bit, showed him everything I knew in those things, and we worked together. So he put a lot of the hours in as far as editing goes.
Oh my God.
I'm obviously out there shooting stuff, you know what I mean? But it's like, shooting's more fun. Like, I like editing, don't get me wrong, but when it comes to like, oh, I went to Catalina for 4 days and just shot a bunch of random stuff, I'm like, it would just take me forever. You know what I mean?
Yeah, like how much bad shit goes on, right? Like how much.
Totally. Yeah, it's mostly just garbage, right? And so, I mean, it's like this is me feeling myself. Yeah, it's all garbage. But it's like it takes time just to find those cool little moments and like weave the story in and out. And so I worked with him on that, and it was like a really interesting thing to do for this past year.
And then you freed up a little bit of the time that way, and then you don't have to
totally.
I get it. So is that like part of you say it's part of your professional life, is that part of your business plan, or is that like?
It's 100% about, it's mostly business plan. You know what I mean? Like, because it's like if I can make engaging content, if I can be personable on camera, if that's what I'm showing and putting out there, I think that aids in the idea of like someone wanting to hire me. You know what I mean? Because now it's like, if someone says, oh, yeah, I need a director, I need someone to make this thing, like, oh, check out Cole, they look up my stuff, and there's like fun, personable things. I'm making stuff that's high quality. I tried not to come off like an asshole. You know what I mean? Like, oh, this guy might be good to work with. Yeah. That's only gonna help. And then if I can build a following, and they're like, oh, he's built in with like 100K or whatever followers,
it is.
It's like, that adds value too. You know what I mean? So it's like, there's no reason why I shouldn't be doing it, especially for me in my career, or anybody who's trying to have any career in the public sphere. It's like, it's all going towards that now.
Totally.
You know?
You can increase, your price goes up a little bit because of your whatever following on YouTube or whatever following on Instagram.
I would say your value goes up, not necessarily your price. Different things, right?
Sure, different things. Absolutely.
You can get a higher price by having higher value, but I don't think it inherently raises your price. But it 100% raises your value.
So you're saying that price lags behind value?
I'm just saying that they're different.
Okay.
You know what I mean? I think that because I think that like people talk about price and rate all the time. I always try to talk about value. Because it's like that's your leverage in getting a good price. Now they're very closely related.
Yeah.
But like if people ask me, I don't say like my price is this. Well, I mean I do eventually.
You should say that.
But in the conversation about like talking about the job, it's like I try to communicate my value. Like what am I bringing to it? What am I worth to you? Because that's what I can charge. I can ask for whatever I want to get, but like the question isn't how much do I want, it's how much are you willing to pay me?
The market is the market.
Exactly, right? Yeah. And so I add value by XYZ, you know, my career, my past, whatever.
Totally.
And I've learned that that's the thing that will actually get you paid better. So I try not to frame it in like, my rate is this, because my rate is super variable. You know what I mean? If I want to do a job, it's like I'll do it for super cheap. If this is like a high profile job that like is risky for the client to hire someone else, my value goes way up.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it's like they can't have someone else do it.
You're scarce all of a sudden.
Exactly, right? And that depends on the client, it depends on the job, it depends on the creative. But if it's a version of that where you are scarce, then that's where you add more value, and that gives you a higher price.
Very interesting. I think obviously people like yourself are scarce. Like I've spent a minimal amount of time in LA, but most guys are not like you, right?
Okay.
Like,
all right, cool.
Do you get tagged the happy-go-lucky Canadian at all?
I do actually. It's so interesting because it's like I try, like I definitely put forth in being like happy and positive. It's a component of my life that I actually work on, you know?
Wow.
But I don't think that like, I don't view myself as like this guy that's like I don't know. There's a disconnect because people comment like, oh, you're always so happy and positive, and I never feel like I'm forcing it. I just try to feel like I'm just being authentic. You know what I mean? Yeah. And so I guess that's like sort of like a good compliment because I'm like, oh, I must really be happy. People are like,
so it's kind of like it goes in a circle, and people think you're happy, and oh, I'm happy. I wake up, I gotta be happy. I'm at the set, gotta be go lucky.
Yeah, because I think that some people like, especially online, like really try to force it. You know what I mean?
Oh man.
And so for me, it's like basically if I'm having like, you know, and I go through tough times too, and it's like your good days, bad days, and whatever, right? But like if it's having a shitty time, I'm just like not talking about it. You know what I mean?
No,
because it's not really the thing that I want to like put forward and give energy to and give focus to. But if I'm having a good time, then it's like I'll talk about it. You know?
No,
and I'll tell you why, right?
I couldn't agree more. Listen, man, optimism is the cheat code to life. Life is super, you know, malevolent, and there's tons of terrible shit that happens all the time. But it's just like at the end of the day, your perspective is everything, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously that comes through in your style of filmmaking.
Cool.
So much. Like, I mean, you kind of have like a bubbly personality, but you also have a bubbly style of directing, and like your stuff is like super high energy. I think you've called it colorful, stuff like that, right? Where did you develop that style? Because if I'm wrong, you came up shooting skateboard videos, right?
I did.
Now, what you're shooting now in skateboard videos is a little bit different, right?
A little bit different.
How'd you develop that style?
Yeah, I wonder if it's a function of like, you know, you talked about my personality being sort of bright and colorful, and then also my work. I wonder which one influenced the other, because a lot of my career I've worked with like female pop stars who are really bright and colorful and like that kind of a thing. So I wonder, maybe it could have gone either ways. It's like I was a good match because I had this personality vibe, or it sort of like created my style by working in that section of the industry a little bit. Yeah. It's hard to say, a little chicken before the egg, but I think that you know, my style as a director definitely came from that history. Like starting with Pink, you know, I worked with her in 2009. I did a bunch of stuff with her. Then I did stuff with Katy, and then I moved to CoverGirl and did beauty stuff with like Pantene and oh man, all of these like beauty brands and stuff like that. When you like lighting women like that of that caliber is like, it's a very specific thing. You know what I mean?
Probably tough.
It is a little tough. It's like there's no margin for error.
Yeah, personality, like I don't know, that's tough.
Personality, you know what? I people say that a lot, but most of the time it's not that bad. It depends so much. It depends on a lot of factors. Again, it's like they're normal people. They have good days and bad days, but like. Actually, I mean, I don't know. There's definitely been days that get cut short because of like people are not having fun.
So like kind of not really.
But I mean, it's less of like an issue. It's far more an issue just schedule and time. You know, their availability. Those bigger things. personality. They're all generally very sweet, kind, hardworking people.
For
you know what I
sure,
mean?
yeah. What you need.
Oh yeah, especially at that level. You know what I mean? So I can't remember what the point we were getting at.
No, it's all good though. It's all good though. What I wanted to ask, I want to figure out how this whole thing came to be. First of all, I thought you're like 28, 29.
Sure,
You look super young.
Yeah.
I don't know. You're throwing me off guard. And so I was gonna say how this is like such a short amount of time, but this has obviously been a journey for you and something that does not happen overnight or over a matter of years, but over like a decade or a decade plus,
Sure,
right? Yeah. What kind of got you on this trajectory, if you will? There was obviously some turn in your life where you're like, I want to be a creative.
Yeah.
What was that point?
So it was I went to school to UBC, you know what I mean? And as you mentioned, I started filming skateboard videos.
Yeah.
So that's where I first got my hands on a camera and I started learning how to edit and like do VCR to VCR kind of thing. And I really...
VCR to VCR.
Yeah, totally, right? yeah, like before like DV, like digital editing, you know? So like, but that was like me just like messing around, like trying to figure out. And it was a thing that I loved doing when I was younger, you know, in my teenage years.
Yeah.
And then at UBC, I started working and I bought a good camera and I bought a Mac and I started filming like little jobs. And that really got me into like really learning like nonlinear editing with Final Cut 4 was when I started. So at that point, I'm like going to school, I'm like shooting stuff on my own, and I'm like learning like about filmmaking, and then I'm learning about like how it could be a career, you know? And so I was like third year university and I was loving filmmaking, I was loving being creative. I've always been creative, but it didn't dawn on me that like, oh, that can be your job. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so for whatever reason, that just occurred to me.
What
like,
year is this?
Let's see.
Ish.
I graduated 2003, 2004.
Wow.
So maybe 2002?
So this is like before YouTube. This is before Instagram.
Before-
This is before
yeah.
Facebook.
Oh, yeah.
This is before anything.
So like back then
was there internet or no? I'm just kidding.
So like back then we used to like I used to make funny little shorts with my friends and I would carry around DVDs in my car and we'd like be at a party and like we're like, oh, like let's see the stuff you guys have been doing. We'd go get the DVD out, like watch a couple videos. Yeah, totally. So very different way to distribute your content back then. But yeah, so I guess maybe 2002, and I was just kind of like, this is what I want to do. I want to at least try to do this as a career. You know what I mean? And when I made that decision, I was like, okay, I got to go to LA. Those two were tied together.
Right.
Because at that time, I mean, the industry was still very big. Like Hollywood was big in Vancouver, but they weren't hiring directors from Vancouver. Of
course
so
not.
you could be like a gaffer grip, work production or whatever. But I was like, I want to be the filmmaker. I want to be the director.
You don't want to do lighting.
Yeah, totally, right? So I was like, well, the only option back then was to go to LA. And then so it started to figure out like, how can I move to LA? How can I get a visa? Do that whole thing. And so that process was a couple years, and then I moved in 2006.
Okay, so when you decide, first off, was your mom like, you're crazy? Or was your mom like, that's amazing, honey, go do you?
I don't know, what were you like, Mom?
I was like, what do you mean you're moving to LA?
She's sitting back there. I think that she's always been super supportive. You know what I mean? So like that was really cool because you know, we've talked about it later, and she's expressed her doubts early on because it's like, you know, you want your kid to like have a successful life. And
Mom,
it's
I'm
like,
gonna go rap. What?
Yeah, you're like, I'm gonna gamble with like this thing, and we know nobody who's done this before, but I think I can do it.
Because why not?
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so it's definitely a risk, but I think she like allowed me to, like, she gave me some time to be like, okay, like this is what you want to do, like go explore what that's like. And I think that, you know, I started getting little jobs like shooting dance stuff and shooting little things because I danced for a large portion of my life as well.
So hold on, when you take that leap, like when you take that leap, so you're like, all right, Mom, I'm hopping on a plane, you get your stuff together, you try to like work out your finances or whatever, you hop off the plane, you land in LA, you're like, okay, I'm a director, hi.
Yeah, basically, and then nobody answers you because they're just walking by. You're like,
everyone's a fucking director, buddy.
Yeah, totally. Well, I mean, even more so now because like everybody has cameras. But even back then, I mean, it was just like the question is always like, well, what have you done? And then you're like, well, nothing.
Skate videos.
Yeah, I was really against calling myself a director for a long time.
Why's that?
Because I've always been sort of like concerned with like, there's a lot of people that are really pompous and they'll just like talk. They'll just talk the talk in LA, especially. I mean, everywhere, really, to be honest.
Totally.
And I was like, it irked me, you know what I mean? And like, I really was against, I never wanted to come off like that. Yeah. So for me, I was so hesitant, almost like a bit to a fault of like, I'm directing things, but I'm just like, well, I make more money editing, so I'm an editor. You know what I mean? It took me a while to just be like, all right, like confidently be like, yeah, I'm a director. And it wasn't really until like I made the majority of my income directing that I was like, I feel good about saying this.
Interesting that income was that much tied.
Yeah, I don't know why, but for whatever reason, because I was like, if I'm making my living as an editor, I make 75% or even 60% as an editor. I'm an editor.
I'm a fucking editor.
That's how I make my living. Because
sure.
how do you make your living? You're like, I'm an editor. Like, well, I direct a little bit. You know what I mean? Well, like, what does that mean?
Yeah.
Like, well, I make 40% of my. It doesn't. I know. So for me, that switch. But after, I was like, okay, I'm making 60% directing. I'm a director. I don't do anything. I mean, I do other jobs, but I'm a director. That's how I make my living.
Yeah.
And I think that there's like pros and cons because a lot of people are like, oh, you should like speak it into fruition and like do all this stuff. And like, I think there's some value to that. But I was just so worried about coming off like a dick being like, oh yeah, I'm a director, and like, what have you done? Well, I did this one music video once,
and I did
this other thing that I also edited, you know. So I was just like, it wasn't until I could like substantially be like, oh, like really back it up.
I get it. Like speaking it into fruition is one thing. I'm like similar to you, where I'm like, you should speak it into fruition inwardly. And like some people say that's kind of backwards. Like, oh, you put it out there and then things will come towards you, law of attraction, blah, 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 all that shit. But what I mean is like, you truly need to believe that you are whatever that thing is before you can even have that other discussion.
Yeah, and I think it's like a subtle thing on like what you're, like you can't speak into fruition like labels. Like, I think you can speak into fruition like, I am directing, like I want to be making things, like tell yourself that and go do it. But like labeling yourself a director is like a bit of a different thing.
Well,
I don't know.
I'm gonna disagree with you because you can just write into fruition director in your Instagram bio, and in 2019, that's all it takes, brother.
As soon as you go save profile, you're a director, right?
Ba-bing. Anyway,
totally.
So that's that. So you came up doing the skateboard video. You came in, then all of a sudden you got blessed with this Katy Perry Pink.
Sure, yeah.
Like how, what, who, when, where.
So this is a prime example of like why you should do free gigs. Because I did a gig for free.
Work for free.
Yeah.
Okay.
So, you know, the free thing, I have a very strong opinion on it. I definitely think you should, but it shouldn't be the majority of your work, obviously.
Can't be.
Yeah, and I think that like you need to identify when people are like you should always offer for free. If someone's asking you to do for free, like you can tell them to go fuck themselves. You know what I mean?
Totally.
Depending on where you are in your career, what they're doing, like you just need to be very discerning with how you work for free. But I do think that even people who have careers, it's valuable for them. And I still try to do like one music video for free for like a new artist where it's like keep the cost low and just run out and shoot something fun and go do it. I've done that for the past like couple years, you know? But anyway, so my friends were choreographing for Pink for her Funhouse tour. It was their first really big job as choreographers, and they wanted some like behind the scenes footage of them working with Alicia, as Pink's name. And so they asked me to like come, and I was like, yeah, I'll come. I'll just come shoot.
Yeah.
Totally.
Come
so
hang
I
out.
shot rehearsals for a few days. And then I met the tour director, I met some other people, and then they asked me to come shoot for them, shoot BTS.
That's amazing.
And then so they brought me in for like 5 days, and then they needed the opening video of her tour to be directed, because Dave Meyer is like the guy who directs most of her music videos. He was gonna do it, and the budget was like just crazy, of course, that's what he's used to. And then so they're like, they're like, we got 15 grand or something like that, and we need to do this thing, can you do it? And I was like, yeah, of course,
15 grand? Hell
yeah,
yes.
Totally. You know, so we did a small little shoot, and that was the start. I did the opening video, I did the closing video, I went on tour and did a whole like behind the scenes thing of her life on the road. So it really led to a lot, and it was like, so I was gonna work for free for that couple days.
And it worked out
absolutely.
very, very well.
Like literally the first 4 or 5 years of my career were like based off that initial connection and the people that I met working with Pink.
Crazy. Are you a Gary Vee subscriber?
I am.
Because that's one of the big things.
I got some Gary V's. I got some K Swisses at the house.
Hey, there you go. I mean, that's one of the biggest things he says is, you know, don't be afraid to work for free.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how I actually got to Vancouver, man. As I came over, and I was just like, I came to work for a creative agency, and I was just like, yep, I'm here. Like, I'll do it. Just like whatever, just throw it my way.
Yeah.
I'm here. Just acknowledge me here, and let me just throw whatever it is.
It's so valuable. I mean, if you have to have that opportunity that will benefit you, you know what I mean? But it's like, it's like if someone was like, oh, like Steven Spielberg wants coffee, I'm like, I'm there every day.
Please,
like, I don't care.
It does not matter.
You know what I mean? Yeah, you know, so.
I'm totally with it. I love it. I think the whole idea is amazing. And there's this whole, especially in Vancouver. Sorry, Vancouver, I shit on you guys a lot, but you know what it is? I'm from one of the Gulf Islands, so I guess I can do that.
Sure. I mean, yeah, sure.
And there's this huge movement of like entitlement or whatever, right? So everyone's like, oh, I gotta get paid, or I'm a rapper now because I had this in my bio, or I'm a this because I have it in my bio, so you gotta pay me, da 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 da. But at the end of the day, it's just like, I'm so lucky. Like for instance, with this podcast, it's just like, that was a DM or whatever. Like that was a conversation at a club or whatever. It's just like, yes, I'll come and do this for free. Like just cultivating that energy, or like, I don't want to get too woo-woo on you, but it is totally. Definitely a thing, right?
Yeah.
And that's something that Gary Vee preaches, intensively. So that kind of launched your career a little bit. I love that whole vibe, and maybe that gave yourself the personality and all that. But then how does that loop back into, how did that craft your, I don't want to say creative direction because I feel like that's an overused word, but how did that craft your eye for filmmaking, or did it at all? Or
it had to have. I mean, it definitely made me learn how to light women, which is, again, it's its own thing.
Yeah.
And the cool thing about that is that like once you have like Katy and Pink on your reel,
tough to have a girlfriend.
Yeah, yeah, no. But I mean, it's like any other female pop star is like, okay, you can light me. You know what I mean? Because it's like you've lit some of the best, especially at that time. Like, it's like, I mean, they're still obviously super famous, but like they were like really big at that time. So it's just like all the other like stars coming up, female pop stars coming up, it's like, yo, you can light them too, right?
That was like I Kissed a Girl and I Liked It time.
It was just
right?
after it was her California Dreams World Tour. So that's like California Girls, Firework.
Oh my God,
all that kind of stuff.
That's like, oh she popped.
Oh
that
yeah,
was it.
yeah, that was like the breakthrough record. You know what I mean?
Super cool. Super cool. So craft your eye a little bit. I get it. You can light guys and all that skill, but you have no traditional education in this.
I do not. No.
You went to school for
psychology. I have a degree in psychology.
Actually, that could help.
It's super helpful, and like I think at first blush you don't think that it has anything to do with it.
Hey
right?
man, women are emotional, I guess. Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah, no. But like there's two things that I found were really, really helpful in having a degree in psychology and then going into filmmaking. First is like work ethic.
Totally.
So it's like if I went to LA right out of high school, I would have partied, I would have like fucked off, I would have done whatever like to be cool or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I didn't learn how to work hard until college, where it's like finals time and it's like you're in the library studying every day for a month and it's like you buckle down to like get your term papers done or whatever, right?
Yeah.
I learned how to work hard in school, and then also it's like with psychology, you understand the whole idea about psychology is like how people perceive and understand things. So for me as a filmmaker, like my goal is to make you feel something, like to viscerally feel something in your stomach. And so it's like, if I understand how you perceive things, I have better tools to elicit that reaction, right? And so that was really interesting and gave me a lot of insight that I still sort of rely on like how people understand things and how people frame things in their head. And even with like, I've been writing a lot lately, and it's like my knowledge in that world has informed my writing style too, because it's like I studied people and people's minds for 5 years because I took 4 classes a year because I was trying to filmmake at the same time.
It's all good. Yeah.
So it's like that knowledge has informed my entire career.
Totally. And that's a big part of like what makes you such a great fit for, first of all, this podcast. I mean it's Selfhired, right? That you embody that like 100%.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's self-ownership, self-responsibility, and just be like, all right, I want this. I'm gonna go get this. I'm gonna put all my ducks in a row to go get that.
Yeah, I mean, there's no other way. It's like if you half-ass it, it's like it's not happening.
No.
Especially in LA, like it's so funny. I've talked about this a bunch, but it's like it's the truth. Where it's like everybody in LA is talented, is good-looking, like has all this stuff going for them. So it's like, how are you gonna go there and like set yourself apart? Like, how are you? And it's like if you don't focus and like spend all your time like trying to achieve what you're trying to achieve, someone else is gonna put in that work. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's hard to affect your innate talent. It's hard to affect like how you look, but it's like I can definitely affect how hard I work.
You play sports?
Yeah. Well, yeah.
You're talking like, okay, I'm a basketball guy.
Okay,
so
sure.
Like you're talking like a hooper right now.
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
100%.
I mean, it, like those things apply. You know what I mean? It's like because ultimately what I'm talking about is being at the top of your craft. So be it playing basketball, be it filmmaking, be it a content creator, whatever you're doing. You know what I mean? Like if you don't bust your ass, someone else will, and that spot is going to get taken by someone else.
There's 7 billion people on this planet.
Yeah, but the other thing too that applies to that I really think is interesting is like it also applies to like being good to work with and being kind, because it's like if you're a dick, it's like and you're talented, you might be able to get a certain amount away or a certain distance. But at some point, people are like, I don't want to work with this guy. Like, there's another guy who's good, who's nice.
Or even if you're an inauthentic nice guy.
Sure, yeah.
Like
totally.
you have a glass ceiling on yourself, right?
Oh, yeah.
And I'm not talking about like being an extrovert or being an introvert. I'm just talking about being a genuine. Like people don't care how much you know. They care. I don't know what the saying is. People don't care I don't know what it is. People don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. Thank
Sure,
you.
there you
Yes.
go, yeah.
And so that's like a huge part of it. And I just don't think that at the end of the day, like, people are people. It's not an exchange. It's like an exchange of energy. I don't
yeah.
so woo-woo. I don't mean to get woo-woo.
No, I
But like
get
I'm
a
saying,
little woo-woo in me, you know.
like
it's all good.
there's not, it's, yes, I'm hiring you for this, but at the end of the day, like, I need to be able to work for you every day. And
Totally,
and
man.
it's from a basketball background, obviously, right? And so, you know, I've coached, I've played, and it's just like, listen, I'm a 6-foot white guy, okay? So like, and I made it over to Europe for a year, but it was just like, I was like, if I work as hard as possible, like just 100% of the time, like don't leave any spot for error. Like the only spot for error I'm gonna leave is that maybe I don't know the right way to be working out, but I can't control that anyway, so I'm just trying to learn as much as possible, as much time as possible. And if I do that at the highest rate possible, there's like a 50% chance I'll make it.
Yeah.
Or like a 20% chance I'll
totally.
make it,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And like just at that point.
Totally.
Then you can look back and be like, I tried.
Yeah, and you be confident that like at least you gave it your all, and you're like, if it didn't work out for whatever external factors, you're like, I tried, like I gave it everything, and like you can feel confident or happy sort of changing directions knowing that you laid it everything out on the table. You know what I mean?
I can die. I just don't want regrets, man. Gary Vee. There's a Gary Vee thing. Yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It's like I just don't want to like be there at 90 or 100 or 70 and be like,
It's
oh
the
my
worst.
gosh.
You're like, oh, I should have. You're like, do it.
No, 100%, 100%. You said you're doing a little bit in writing as well?
I've been writing. Writing has been my focus for the past year and a half, for sure. Yeah, because so for me, it's like I want to make the transition from short form to long form. So I want to do narrative long form is the goal, and that's always been the goal since I moved out there is to do film, right? And so I'm at the point where I'm like, okay, I could sit around and wait till someone gives me a script or whatever, but I was like, or I could just try to write one. So that's been like my focus for a while now.
Writing is a totally different, I mean, from directing to writing, it's a little bit different of a creative outlet, no? Like, are you trying, when you hone in to be a writer, and especially for, you know, with a narrative long form, your storytelling, I get the psychology, obviously you're well versed, and I'm sure you can picture the frames as you're writing and all that, but is there, to just go out and write a script or to just write a film in general, that's a large jump from no writing before, or did you write in high school?
I've always written. I mean, not like screenplays, but I wrote in high school and like as a creative outlet, and I've always been interesting. I think like directing is an extension of like my desire to tell stories, and so I would write stories when I was younger and try to make them funny or interesting or whatever. And I always enjoyed telling stories too.
For sure.
And so it's just like this. It's a technical extension of that. But the skill of writing is like so much different than directing. You have to sort of like, I've had to at least like relearn the technicalities of what that is and what that means. But yeah, so.
What does that mean? Like to you, what are the technicalities of writing that you've had a challenge with?
Well, it's just been like writing a screenplay is a very specific skill. And so at first it's like learning the formatting of a screenplay, you know what I mean?
Right.
Like so, like just those fundamentals.
I have no fucking clue what you're talking about, but yes, I can understand that as a different
like
thing.
Exterior this or that day, and like description in this, So you need to learn how it physically is formatted, but then you need to learn how to make it good, and that's much more subjective, right? But like because scenes, it's so interesting because we think that like films are good because they're like real and they portray real life and we feel them and like they make us like feel or think something, right? And then so when you sit down, you're like, okay, like real life, like this is what happened, this is what people say. But then when you really break it down, it's like people don't really talk like they really would in real life in the film. Like they say similar things, but if you like really think about how like that conversation might go in real life, it's like it's very succinct and like everything someone says in a film like has a meaning or a purpose. Whereas like if you have a real conversation, you talk too much about bullshit in between the meaningful things. So you have to learn how to like condense
Dude, I do
down.
podcasts, I get it.
Exactly, right? So like we're hitting points here or there, and then the rest of the time we're just kind of like talking about bullshit, right? But so it's basically like learning how to condense it down and like learning, and then just like beats of a film, like what needs to happen 12 pages in, what needs to happen 25 pages in, like that kind of stuff. Those are like, you have to learn that formula in order to maybe break it or tweak it a little bit to make it a little bit fresh or interesting. But you really have to learn that foundation.
Kind of like the fundamentals of...
It's like this is a horrible example that I'm just thinking of right now, but it's like knitting a sweater, say, right? You have to learn how to knit a sweater, right? So it's like, it has a shape, it has a size, there's a template, you have to learn. But if like you want to make a dope sweater, you have to make 100 sweaters that are just normal and then get crazy with the patterns and like do something dope or design it really cool. And it's like, it's still a sweater, but it's yours, it's designed dope in the way that you want it. But you couldn't do that off the bat. You'd have to learn the basics, like how to just do a normal sweater first, right? We're looking at clothes here.
Yeah, we're looking at clothes. I get it. You gotta you gotta Mr. Miyagi, wax on, wax off 1,000 times before you actually go anywhere with it.
Exactly.
No, I totally get it, man, for sure. So then what do you find challenging then? What makes a really good, I mean, writing is one thing, and obviously you're still exploring that. You're trying to formulate that and what your style is. And do you have anything on the horizon here for 2019 in terms of your writing, or?
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple. I have 2 scripts that I'm working on that I'll probably go to pitch this year.
Ooh.
So that's super exciting.
What's a pitch like?
I mean, it's as simple as, it just depends. Like an in-room pitch and then like sending a script in, or like sending a script in is like finding someone's email and like
that's fine.
Making sure,
Well, like in room, like how do you approach that?
It's like, it really depends on the context of the meeting, you know? And like who you're meeting with and like what they're looking for. And so, but it boils down to the thing that I talked to earlier is like asserting your value.
Right.
You know? So it's like, if I'm going into a meeting with a studio, right, and they're looking for, one of them's kind of like a comedy, they want a comedy, a fresh take on it. You know, like me understanding what they want. They want to make a movie, they want to make money, right? So my job is like going in there and explaining why my movie is the one to make money for them.
Why it's relatable, why it's got value.
Yeah, like what value am I bringing? Because I know they're taking meetings with 10 other directors, right? And so like figuring out how mine's different, how it adds value, how it is the thing that they're looking for, and half of that equation is identifying what they're looking for.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
And if you don't know, then you're just like, okay, I'm just gonna be like, just tell them how awesome it is, or be my authentic self, and like hopefully it just is.
Yeah.
But if you can kind of like figure out what they're looking for, and I don't mean like change what you're selling, but just frame it in a way that it like checks off whatever boxes they have.
Totally.
You know?
Yeah. And you're the master of framing things in the right way. Are you ever like, hey, I'll write it and I could direct it too?
Well, no, in the sense like that's 100% the idea. So like I don't even need a pitch. Like that's the only option.
Yeah.
I'm not selling the script for someone else to direct. I'm like, if you want to make this movie, I'm directing it.
Got it.
And if you don't want in it, that's it. That's the deal, right? So yeah, that's inherently a part of the discussion.
Got it. Because I don't know how much. If you were to write something and then sell it to a studio, is that worth anything? Like, dramatic? Like, what is that worth? Like, give me numbers. No?
I mean, like studio picture. I mean, okay, so it's like, it could be nothing to a lot.
Obviously,
you know what I mean?
Of course.
Because it's like, what happens usually is like what's called an option. So like an option, it's like, they could be like, we're gonna give you $500, we're gonna option it for a year. Be like $5,000 option, $50,000 an option for a year. You know what I mean? I think like a studio commissioned SAG or WGA script is like 70 grand or something like that. But that's like once you're in the union, that's a commission thing, you're an established writer.
Yeah.
But you know, when you're selling a script, I mean, you know, it has happened that scripts are bought for $1 million, you know, and a lot go for, you know, I think it just depends, dude, because you can meet with like production companies that are like trying to get their feet off the ground, and then they're like, okay, we'll give you like $1,000, and like we're gonna try to make it, and you're just like, okay, but then again, it's like you have to remember, if you're selling it to them, you're optioning to them for a year, they have a year to make it. So like, it has to be worth you taking it off the table to give to them for a year. So if someone's like, hey, we're gonna option this for $1,000, to me that number doesn't matter. It's my confidence that they can actually make it. If I'm confident that they can make it, I'd be like, don't pay me anything. Like, if you have, let's say, a 6-month option, me as a director, go do it. I'll get paid as the writer when it gets made. I'll get paid as the director it gets made. I don't need the option money.
Yeah, it's fine. Yeah,
you know,
like, it's like a bonus check, really.
Totally. But then if they're like, oh, option for $50,000, I'm like, great.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
Different conversation.
Yeah, totally. But yeah, it really varies. And to me, the end goal is making it. So it's like whoever has the ability to make it, that's who I want to like work with, you know?
So at this point in your career, do you really have to like market yourself? I know you put a lot of thought into who you are and how you portray yourself to the world, and obviously your personal brand is important to you and has brought you value. But do you really have to put a lot of thought and work into getting projects and selecting projects, or is it just kind of like I can pick and choose at this time?
I mean, I think there's always work that you have to put in to get the next job and to like secure the next job. And it's like, for me, I'm still trying to I want better jobs every time. You know what I mean? So if I get complacent, like some other dude is gonna take my jobs, right?
Yeah, but dude, you shot for like Katy Perry. What
So,
are you talking?
well, okay,
what
so
is the better job?
I will say this, right? I am fortunate enough that people do call.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
of course.
And so like I think that I don't need to like chase down. I frame this not like jobs that I would get anyways, but my network has been, because I've been directing for 10 years, I work with people consistently. And when they have something, they'll call me and like, that's a job, right? I don't need to chase those down, but like those are the jobs, in my mind, I'm like, those are the jobs I already have. I want the better next one I don't have, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so I'm gonna put in work to get those next jobs.
So what is that next job for you now?
I mean, more broadcast commercial.
Really?
Yeah, I think I do a lot of digital stuff, which is great, you know. But I have a I just want to do broadcast stuff.
I get it.
It's like the traditional thing. It's like, even though the sphere has changed so much, you know, when I started directing 10 years ago, digital didn't exist. And so I was like, I want to direct a commercial. And I'm like, I've done some broadcast stuff, but I just want to do more. Often there's like better budgets just because it costs so much for them to put it on the air that there's inherently more money to make a spot. So I think that's a big goal for me this year. For music videos, like I've done a bunch and like, they're fun, but I'm not like trying to pound those down. I'm not trying to like write on every music video and like go do it. So it's like, that's my focus is shifting away from that. More broadcast stuff, I'd say, and then really long form is like the
long form's the thing, for sure. I know a lot of actors and a lot of just personalities and celebrities, if you will, have their own production companies and whatnot. I know Dwayne Johnson has $7, I believe, and stuff like that. Like people are really starting to get savvy to the game and build their own companies around that stuff. I saw you did some work, and I don't want to ask you all these celebrity questions and bullshit, but
no,
like,
it's all good.
You worked a little bit. I watched your vlog with Channing Tatum, I thought it was hilarious. By the way, your buddy who did the first time acting thing was super fucking funny. Yeah, go watch that vlog. Kev will link it somewhere.
Yeah,
Right there.
definitely,
Just
it's
kidding.
a fun one. Yeah.
So when you do something like that, where you're working directly with someone who's obviously an icon or someone that has their own production company, you're working with their budget, and in a situation like that maybe is, I don't want to say indie, but just not as, you're not going to a corporate building or whatever.
Yeah.
Do they give you like full creative control, or do they really want to know?
It really varies. So I've had jobs that are like bigger jobs where I like have 100% creative control. And then I've had jobs that are like smaller things and people are just on you about stuff. So like, it really varies. In that case in particular, like I've known Chan and I've worked with him for years. And so like we pitched that idea to promote the show, Comrade Detective.
Right.
And they were like, okay. And so we're like, okay, let's do it. We're shooting the office. Like that's his office. You know what I mean?
No.
Yeah, and so it was just like, and everybody there is friends, you know what I mean?
Right.
And so it was literally like that whole day was like friends getting together to make a fun thing with a movie star, you know?
Yeah, super cool. How do you so obviously your creative directions now, like it's a thing. Like you have a style, you've honed in on your craft. Like if I, had $50,000 and be like, hey, like Cole, I need you to go do X, Y, and Z, I'm gonna be totally confident that you're there. How do you, now that you've attained that like creative direction and this is my shit now, how do you level up in terms of, like, I know you're a guy that likes planning, you wanna have your show notes, you wanna have this or whatever, like how do you level up your value? What's really important to you to land those like A-list, top of the food chain gigs?
It's a good question, and I think, for me, a lot of it is about just being really consistent.
All right.
And I still think like I feel like my body of work has some cool stuff in it, but it doesn't have every cool thing in it. You know what I mean? So any job that has something cool that I haven't done, like that excites me, and I'm always interested in like adding to my reel and adding to my body of work. I've made it a thing where I try not to take any job. The reason why I would want to take a job is because it's going to add to my body of work and add to my reel and add to my career. It's not so much like, okay, I enjoy working and I enjoy making a living working, but if I can figure out a way to do something that is going to be unique or different or like add to my history as a director, that is the thing that interests me. So that I think inherently levels it up. If it's like, I haven't shot, I haven't done anything with boats really, like shooting sailboats, nautical commercial would be cool, right? But that's the kind of thing, right? So it's like, I have a ton of beauty, and it's like, I have beauty stuff that even just that is dope that was on my reel that's not on my reel because it doesn't fit anymore and there'd be too much. So having a variety of things is good. And so it's not like I need to do more beauty, but I do a ton of it and I love that, so that's fine. But doing other things that can add to my reel, like this past year I've done a bunch of stuff with Mercedes, and that's been really cool because I have no car stuff on my reel.
Dope.
So, we went off-roading with the new G-Wagons, like shot a bunch of content for that.
Super
and so
sick,
that's an addition to the reel that wasn't really there before. So I think that's like a level up in some sense. So I think it's just doing like expanding your breadth of work and just doing really high quality content every single time.
Right. Yeah, I mean, like I'm obviously like a sports guy, so it's just like you in the sports world or MMA world or basketball world or whatever, you always want like, hey, let me add this combination, let me add this skill, let me add this, let me add that. Is there like a technical thing that you're missing or you want to hone in on, or you really, is that something you've kind of already been there, done that?
I mean, the thing is like there's always new technical things and innovations that come out, right? And so it's like the faster you can get it on your reel, the better. Like I do a lot of stuff with this camera system called the Bolt, which is this high-speed camera arm. I do this thing called the GlamBot for all the red carpets.
Sweet.
And like that technology came out maybe 5 years ago, and I started really working with it like 2 or 3 years ago. And so now I have a ton of stuff of that on my reel, and that's really like taking my reel to another level because it's like really cool camera movements, super epic slow motion, and it's just like cool visual stuff, right?
Yeah.
So I think that whenever there's new technologies that come out, if you can get them on your reel, then that's great, right?
Yeah. No, I definitely distinctly remember that. You had like a couple, like just those zooms are crazy.
Sure, yeah,
the zooms and the slow-mo.
Yeah.
Like, what?
Yeah.
How did you do that?
It's a really cool combo for sure.
Super dope. So then how did the thing with Mercedes-Benz come to fruition? That was
through social.
crazy.
Through social.
Really?
Yeah.
Damn.
Totally. And so that's by far the coolest job I think I've gotten through social. And so I have like a vintage Mercedes G-Wagon.
Whoa, hold up, pause. Does Mercedes-Benz slide in your DMs?
Yeah, 100%. To be honest, it was the craziest thing. So I actually wasn't following Mercedes. And so like, you check your like filter DMs every so often. So I'm like on Instagram, whatever. I look at like the filter DMs and I see the little check mark and it's like Mercedes-Benz. And I was like, like that's interesting. So I go like, in the filter, like down the way. So I click on it and then it's the ad agency that runs their social, right? So it's someone from the ad agency saying, we really love your truck. It's super cool. We're rebranding the G-Wagon. This was a year and a half ago. And we want to do like interesting stories. These stories, they call it Stronger Than Time, about the G-Wagon and its history. We love your truck. We want to do a story on you.
So cool.
I was like, great. Well, I can shoot all my own stuff. And so I pitched them like a 5-day California camping trip. So I drove up and down the coast of California.
And you vlogged it.
Yeah, I shot all the content. We shot a bunch of stuff for them, serviced it through Mercedes Global website, Mercedes Global socials. Yeah. And then and then Mercedes USA hit me up this past year independently of that.
Wow.
Yeah, so I again, on Instagram, through the
Mercedes USA, check.
Yeah, totally. Through their marketing manager, like found my thing and again saw my truck and was like, "Hey, that's super dope. We're doing XYZ. Do you want to do some more stuff?" And I said, "Of course."
Damn, cool. I drive a 2010 Volkswagen Jetta. So Volkswagen,
hey, get in them DMs.
I like it. I like it a lot. It's cool that it brings that value to you. We live in such a weird fucking time where it's like, directors are famous now, like producers are famous,
Sure,
like Scott Storch, like Dre is obviously an icon, but we know these like Metro Boomin is a pop star, and like obviously like, it's kind of similar parallels now, but you would never think of.
It's so crazy. It's like I think of someone like Murda Beats who's like
what the heck?
Like he has like 1 million followers, and it's just like, but I get it because it's like we all want that. I think that's almost like a more appealing lifestyle because it's like you're with all the rappers traveling around, but you can sort of still be in the cut with it, you know what I mean? Yeah. And then, but like their Instagram is so lit because they're on stage with everybody, and it's like more so because you're like a little bit of Drake and like a little bit of Travis Scott because you're producing for all of them.
You get that behind the scenes, kind of.
Yeah, but I think that like, outside of like the big producers in like the 90s, like Timberland and the Neptunes, it's like those guys were just like literally in the cut. You didn't know who they were. And so, but I think it's just, it's cool to see that. It's cool to see those creatives like having more of a profile. And I think it's sort of like, for better or for worse, I don't think that it comes with its own set of issues and sort of drawbacks, but there's a lot of benefits to it. And so I think it's where we're headed. So I just kind of try to embrace it and think it's cool.
As a person that's directly in that space, you directly occupy that space. Like, you're a director that's verified on Instagram. Like, sometimes just like, what?
Yeah,
Anyways,
totally.
Like when I first came across your shit, I was like, this guy, like, does he sing? Does he rap? He just has sick hair, and like, what?
He's verified because his hair.
Yeah, like, I don't get it.
Yeah, totally.
Instagram's a weird place.
It is interesting because it's like, obviously, historically, directors are literally behind the camera.
But you don't know them.
Yeah,
You don't know them.
Yeah,
And
aside from like the most famous ones.
Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, Quentin Tarantino. You know, it's like you don't really know who these guys are.
Yeah.
But I think it's just like cool that they can have exposure and we can see into their lives a little bit, and then you can connect with them. You know what I mean? Like I've connected with a ton of people like you, and from something like this in the podcast to Mercedes to just random cool people I've met for coffee along the way. It's just like, to me, you know, you can meet people that you would have never met, and I think that's awesome. You know?
Dude, I gotta ask you, man. Listen, let me filter this by saying I'm the most small-time dude in the entire world, but because of this podcast, I've started to got like a lot of like random DMs and a lot of like coffees and a lot of like, hey, let's meet up. And da-da-da. How do you filter those? Like, you can't just. I've gone for coffees with people that online look amazing and then have nothing to add and just want to go. Like, you know what I'm saying? They just want to network. Like, how do you filter that shit?
I mean, I'm super selective only because I'm so busy.
Thanks for coming by the way. God damn.
No, I'm happy
shit.
to. I'm happy to. Of course, like my hometown, you guys are doing cool. You guys are making content in Vancouver.
I love it.
About being creative. It's like I'm there 100%.
Sweet.
You know what I mean?
Appreciate it.
But like, you know, I do get a lot of requests to like coffee or intern or this and that. And I don't know, I'll respond if I can, you know, and like I'll check out their stuff, and I've met people for coffee. It's just a vibe thing. I get a vibe that like they really have some questions, or like if they're doing something like on their own already, that's entices me a little bit more. Like
right.
I have people that are like, oh, I want to direct, like how can I become a director? And then on their page, like nothing to do with directing or filmmaking. And I'm like, I'm not going to show you the basics.
Yeah.
But like, you know, some people are like, oh, check out my reel, or like I've done this or that or whatever, and I'll look at their stuff and I'm like, oh, they're like doing their own thing. They're into it. They're already spending energy trying to learn this craft. I'm happy to sit down with them. Because I never went to film school, I learned a lot from people sitting down with me and explaining stuff and talking. So I'm always trying to like give back in that sense if I can. So like if you're doing something and like you're around LA, it's like I'll try to meet for coffee if I can.
Yeah. I mean, like, dude, you're a director. You must have like actors and photographers and all these creatives like constantly try to like court your attention. No?
I mean, like, I do get messages.
Dude,
but
go Hollywood on me one time. Like, come on.
It's not that bad. I mean, it's like, you know, you have obviously, there's exposure because of Instagram. You know what I mean? It's like people see what I'm doing, right? And I think that, I mean, I do get requests, but you know, it's like I'm not entitled to answer or say yes. So you know, it's like I'll be nice, and I don't know. It's just like always, I don't know.
Polite Canadian.
Yeah, exactly. The polite, like, oh, thank you, or like, you know, like I don't know if I have time.
I don't want to hurt your feelings.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's a weird thing that like, you know, my time is a little limited for all of that stuff. So if I say I don't have time, if you're offended, like, I don't know, go fuck off, right? Like,
no, and if you're offended, like, you just don't get it.
Yeah,
like time is absolutely 100% the most valuable resource ever. And if once you get to a certain level, you start to understand that a lot. Like, but dude, you go to LA. If I go to LA right now, and I get off the airplane, right, and I go to a Denny's, the person serving me pancakes is gonna be a fucking actor. I guarantee it.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So like, there's so many of these people.
Yeah. I mean. But most don't have most aren't in people. It's just like a few of them are like in everybody's DM. You know what I mean? It's not like everybody's DMing everybody to try to like get
DM
something.
sluts, I know them.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Thirst traps everywhere.
Totally.
Gotta watch your feet out here, folks.
Yeah, definitely. So, you know, and I think, and for me, I can usually tell you can tell pretty quick if they're like genuine or just idiots or whatever, you know, and I just respond appropriately. If you're nice and thoughtful and seem to be respectful, you know, I'll see what I can do, right?
So, Cole, we got so deep into like Cole, the person. I want to get the reason why I want people like you on, and not like, I don't necessarily want the stars, so to speak. Like I want the people that are behind that. Like we had Manila Gray is a big act coming out of BC right now, and we had Azelle, who's who's essentially, he's their producer, but he's also their manager, right? And I want those people on so we can dig into, personalities are great, but the mechanics of shit is way more interesting, right? So I want to kind of pivot a little bit there. What makes we look at, music videos have changed so much. Like, I remember just being a kid and be like, when Rhapsody used to come on, it was like, that was the shit. And you'd see the little, the credits in the bottom. You don't have that anymore, right? And those spots were super valuable. And I remember there was I remember seeing Mad Child and Swollen Members for the first time on TV. And I was like, oh my God. They have made it. They're Hollywood now. And now it's just anyone can throw up a music video. Are music videos, do they still have the same value that they used to? Obviously the budgets have gone down, but
budgets have definitely gone down. It's hard to say because the value's just changed, So I think it's actually coming back up. For a long time, obviously, historically, it's super valuable. When they had millions of dollars, and those were the main marketing tool for a song. And then the whole industry changed, and we all went digital. And then the record industry was figuring out how to be sustainable. And music videos just took a tank because it was this period before YouTube was super big, but the record industry was tanking that music videos just kind of went away for a second.
This is 2004, 2000, what's it?
2004 to 2008, say, I guess, maybe, I don't know.
Sure,
but in that time, there was no tangible way to push videos out because it was all reality on MTV. Oh my God, but around 2008, 9, 10, YouTube started becoming just more substantial in people's lives, and then we're getting a lot of views and a lot of exposures on music videos. Those were some of the first things that really, really popped, and people would watch them a lot. And so after that happened, and then you could start monetizing them. Because if you have a successful music video, it's it can easily pay for itself and some. If you're getting into the hundreds of millions of views.
You're talking about hundreds of millions of views. You're talking Rihanna, you're talking Eminem here,
Yeah, but still, you know what I mean? I think what's interesting is that before, the record labels didn't really have a tangible way to pay for those. Yeah. And so now they're okay, and it started to be okay, we'll spend $1 million, because if we get 100 million views or whatever, that equates to that much, and then that's that much exposure. So I think that YouTube really brought music videos back. And so, as far as the financial end of it, it's it's always in flux as far as ad rates or whatever. Right. But there is a platform now, and it's on YouTube and it's online.
Totally.
So I think that there's a resurgence, especially now that you can make music videos for much cheaper. Everybody has them, which again is a better for worse thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But it's just the way it is. So I think it's almost returned its value, where it's can be a really good marketing tool. It actually can potentially recoup your investment for paying for one.
If you're big enough, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
or if you're small enough and you only spend $1,000,
or if you do it for free with your iPhone, you can do that too.
Yeah.
Oh my God, you see Lil Dicky's thing with the oh my God.
Which one?
No, Lil Dicky is?
Okay,
work. Okay, cool. I thought you're looking at me like I'm crazy.
No,
what's this guy talking about?
Well, which one are you talking about?
No, the Save That Money. He made a music video for no money.
Yeah.
So epic.
I think that might have been the first one. I think when they were reporting about that, that might have been the first time I saw him.
Yeah, that was the first. Yeah, that was 100%.
Who is this guy?
We're making a music video, and the premise is no money. Can we please come on your yacht for 30 seconds?
Yeah.
We have these girls. Just let us. I'm a rapper.
Yeah.
I'm a Jewish rapper
it
with
was
a
so
BCom degree.
It was amazing. He's just going to rich people's lawns and let's just rap in front of your lawn for half an hour.
I totally love it, man.
Okay.
No, but then yes, come on. So the whole dynamic has totally changed, been flipped on its head. Obviously, streaming has disrupted everything. Does that change how networks even look at these type of things? Do people, for instance, you don't have to throw out your numbers here, but directors obviously used to get paid more, and has that narrowed the field in terms of what you can get for a director, or so that's one kind of that's one force pushing it one way, and then the other force pushing it the other way. And I'm trying to find the equilibrium here. I'm a finance guy. Sorry.
Sure. Yeah.
Is there's so much ease of access, so everyone can be a director now. So there's so many, maybe there's more influx at the bottom, but all these guys, all of a sudden the paycheck has gone way down. Where is the equilibrium? Is there more directors, or is there less of them and they're better? Is there more and they're worse?
I would argue, I think that your second situation is actually due to more people making content, so there is more directors. You know what I mean? So what has happened is the budgets have shrinked. If we're talking top echelon, it's those have kind of stayed the same for big acts and big directors, right? But then the rest has gotten squished down, but they're making so much more. everybody has a music video, everybody has content to make, so there's so many more jobs, right? So maybe they don't pay as much, but you're doing them more often, you know what I mean? You're sort of doing them quicker, so you can do more in a year, which is, again, like good and bad. And then in turn, there's just so many more directors because there's so much more work.
Right.
So I think overall, it's like a really good thing because there is so much work now. Like everybody wants content, everybody wants to do something. So that's a good thing, right? Sure, budgets have gone down, but that doesn't mean you can't make a living. You know what I mean?
If you're good enough, I guess.
Yeah, totally.
For sure.
And it's like you just need to be like at the level, like working in the level that you're in. You know what I mean? So like if you're doing videos for $1,000, as long as you're doing them frequently, then you're doing good for you, right? If you're doing videos for $10,000, as long as you're doing a lot for you, then that's where it's good for you, right?
Right.
So I just think that it's better, like the more work is better, even though it inherently comes with other problems like tons of competition and smaller budgets.
So like I look at a music video in a certain way, you know, I don't want to just bug you with music videos, but I look at music videos in a certain way, like, damn, like there's some bad bitches in this, or like whatever, like the song is dope. Like I look like a 12-year-old boy and I'm like, yeah, you know, like from a creative standpoint and from a directing standpoint, have music videos gotten worse or better?
Better.
Better?
Yeah, because creativity has gone up.
There you go.
Because I think that a lot of music videos that were dope because they spent $1 million. And like, not that their creative was bad, but like for a music video to pop now, like the creative has to be good. You have to think of something new or cool
outlandish,
or different. Yeah, just like do something different. Like, because the days where like you can be like, oh, we're gonna pay for a yacht and put 50 girls on there are over.
And 12-year-old boys like me are gonna love it.
Totally. But like, I mean, those do well for a reason. But like, you know,
yeah, because they're hot.
Yeah. But like, you have to just get creative now. You're forced to be creative because you're on budgetary restrictions, because you're on all these other restrictions. I firmly believe that like restrictions actually force the best creativity. It's much harder to be creative if you have unlimited budget, unlimited time. You're just like, what am I gonna do? You know, if you're like pressed to come up with an idea, like that's where you really get creative.
Totally. So the rate of consumption of content is so rapid now, and that's disrupted your industry so much. And you know, we live in a world of constant innovation, and especially today, and technology is moving at a rate that's so fast, whether that's like AI, whether that's blockchain, or whether that's like robo-investors. There's a million things that are just like fucking up an old way of living, essentially. And I think that you're kind of an industry that has already pivoted a bit. What do you think is the next kind of disruption you see coming down the line? How is this industry going to change?
Well, if I knew what the next disruption would be, I'd make $1 million.
Yeah, of course. Any suspicions though?
Oh, geez. Well, okay. I mean, I think that it's very clear that the traditional television model is going away.
Yeah.
Like the idea that like, I mean, maybe they'll like set schedules, but like 100% of all TV is going to be streaming. That I think is just a matter of time, right? And so that's going to be a disruption in some sense. And I don't know how. I think that like all these niche things are going to pop up as they are, and like these big network TV stations are sort of like going to diminish a little bit.
Sure,
so that's a thing, right?
Sure. Okay, yeah. So then, does it ever get to a point where you don't? Obviously, there's such an independent push now, and there's such a DIY culture now, which I love. Like, I'm not shitting on it at all. I think it's amazing. That's why we do this.
Yeah.
Is there a point where these big corporations are just not going to be making the profits, and they're going to shrink, or are they always going to be mammoths?
Well, okay. I mean, so it's like, I think the record industry is sort of like insightful in like what might happen to TV networks, right? So like basically all the small labels went away, or they got absorbed by big labels, and now it's just like the big four things. And so, you know, I mean, I guess for network TV, there's only four anyways: NBC, CBS, Fox, and
dude, I've never watched cable, so.
But yeah, I'm not super into TV, but like, you know, I just know that like, it's all gonna go to streaming, and it's gonna change, you know. And I don't know exactly how. If I knew how, I'd probably try to capitalize on it.
So how long is it until Cole becomes not a director but an owner? How long is it until you make that jump into the business side, and you're kind of like, you know, when I want to run things, or are you always gonna be that creative?
I mean, I'm always gonna be the creative. I've sort of prided myself on having a really strong business sense. I do have my own company that's incorporated that I run all of my work as a director through.
Very
but like
smart.
the idea that like I'm gonna own a business that has a roster of directors and like have a company that runs with overhead, it just doesn't interest me.
Really?
No, not at all. Not at all. So
that's so crazy to me. I view you as an amazing, especially with a psychology degree, but a personality manager. I feel like you'd be
that's my
amazing
job
with
as a director.
Exactly.
That's the thing I think that people don't really understand is that like you are the captain of the ship and like your job is far more about I guess like, when I first started directing, I thought like, okay, you're the creative, like you come up with a cool idea, you have this awesome idea, you go make it, you figure out how to make it, right?
Yeah,
and that is a part of it. But like when you're working with like client, agency, talent, like all these things, your job is to like manage all of these worlds to create this thing.
Yeah.
And so it's far more about that than it is just being like, having this sweet idea and getting sweet angles.
And if everything goes right, that ship might
sail
in the right direction.
Exactly, right?
Yeah.
And so, as far as like owning my own business, I own my own business to capitalize on my potential, like my earning potential, because otherwise I'd have to hire a company to like run the stuff, and like that's just stupid because I could own that.
You're losing money.
But the idea that I'm like taking calls on someone else making something doesn't interest me at all.
Yeah.
Until I'm tired of making things, then I'll do that.
Yeah,
but I'm not tired of making things.
You never will be.
Yeah, exactly, right?
You're gonna be one of those 70, 80-year-old directors out there doing your thing.
Yeah, and I think that like, like I've produced, I'm a producer on my things. I'm like the EP, because I run it through my company. But like I've produced some things that I don't direct, and it's like, it's interesting. There's parts of it that I enjoy, and I think that I will continue to do that occasionally. Like there's something nice about it. Like I've definitely appreciated like not having to make creative decisions like on set, and there's like a problem creatively, and I'm like, y'all got whatever you need. Like, if you need something else, you need a crane, call me. But like y'all figure out what angles you want right now, and be very happy that like I'm not in that mix.
Yeah.
So it is nice to take that mental break sometimes and just like just to do something different, of course.
For sure.
But it's not like I don't want to be producing nonstop. I want to be directing.
Yeah, totally. Cool. We got to wrap it up, but I got one. I know we've gone way over time, but I want you.
Have we? I mean, it's been.
We've been like an hour and a half.
Okay, great.
Yeah, but it's all good.
It's been going quick.
But I got to ask you because a big part of this podcast is like trying to deep dive into like what you're actually trying to figure out, what you're actually trying to work on, what are you actually trying to like, what are the problems you're trying to solve professionally? What does Cole need to figure out? I mean, this works perfect with New Year's for 2019, for 2020, for 2021 to be highly successful, highly efficient. Is there anything where you're like, I don't know if I have this yet professionally to maximize my potential?
I think the big thing for me is like, how can I say this? Like to be like appreciative of my success, but not get complacent in like my motivation, like what I've done. So it's like this weird balance into being like, okay, like life is good, I'm enjoying it, but to still stay hungry and stay strong and still work as hard as I did when I started. And the timing is good to sort of like exercise that right now, because the feature world and like commercial world are actually very separate. So in some sense, I'm starting again at the bottom. It's like I have no clout as a feature film director.
Right,
I have I know some people, but it's not like I have all these connections that I can like call.
A resume, yeah.
It's a whole new thing, you know what I mean? And so I guess like, yeah, I don't know. It's like, but that's like exciting to me. Like
totally.
I look back at my early years in LA, like it was so exciting because it's like the potential was limitless. It's like you could do anything. It's like you get to LA and you're like, oh, this whole world's here. It's like I can find my own way anywhere, And so there's a bit of that right now, but I think that's super valuable because but I also will say that like if you are so, like I know some people that are so, driven's the wrong word, but like so focused on the next thing that they underappreciate what they've done or undervalue the present, you know what I mean?
Totally.
And like I'm definitely subject to that, and it's like a thing I'm working on. It's like if I do, like I could work for a month on like a really cool big job, and then the next day it's done, be like, okay, like I gotta go next.
Totally.
And like that's good and bad, you know what I mean? So like finding that balance, I ultimately think is more effective and is more efficient, because if you go so far in that like what am I working towards if I'm always just working? I'm not like enjoying the process or the time.
Not smell the roses.
Yeah, exactly, right?
Yeah.
But then again, it's like you smell them too long. It's like
they go away.
Exactly, right? So finding that balance, it's always been a thing for me. Is like is navigating in between those two kind of extremes. But I think that it's important to go on the spectrum. Like it's really important to like shut everything off and work in my industry and like be be like, I'm doing this, I'm locking the door, I'm not coming out till it's done. And there's also a ton of value in like stopping and be like, I'm not doing any of that shit. I'm gonna do some other stuff. I'm gonna like appreciate life and enjoy things and like not worry about work to get back into it. So that balance is always a thing, and I think that's a thing that I'm trying to focus on for this year.
Yeah, finding that balance is definitely important. It's such a perfect segue because, you know, it's January 2nd today. And listen, I feel this exact same way, man. We've come so far with what we've done digitally here with Selfhired, and, you know, I've had a lot of growth professionally, which the guys on the podcast know nothing about because I work in finance and I can't talk about it.
Sure.
But, you know, there's been a lot of growth there too. When January 1st, I was waking up and I was like, wow, oh my God, I kind of like smelled the roses. I tasted the cake for half a second. And then had an early start today, and I just was like on my way into town, and I was like, oh man, it's day one. Like it's really day one.
Day one.
And then part of me is like, oh man, I'm really not anywhere. But at the same time, I've done so much, but at the same time, there's so much anxiety around being at day one, but there's also excitement. It's like you don't get the good without the bad, and there's this push and this pull. I do the same thing when I sit down for a second, or like I don't even like I hate taking time off, and took a couple days off for Christmas, and I'm sitting there like, what can I do? What can I do to get ahead for January 2nd or January 3rd or whatever it is? How can I just like blow this shit out of the water instead of just being like, oh yeah, like, hi nephew, I haven't seen you in 3 fucking years. Like how, oh my God, like you have a boyfriend or like you have a girlfriend? That's crazy, right?
It's interesting because I think that like, again, it depends on how you view it, but there's value in doing both. But I think that like it's possible, and I think that it's good to entertain the thought that the thing that will make you more efficient and more effective is taking that time off to sit with your nephews, to push your work out of your brain, to be able to like decompress, like just relax, so that when the time, because holidays is not the time to work, you know what I mean? It's the time to like be with family and do the whole thing. So like being able to enjoy that guilt-free is super important, because that might be the thing that makes you work harder later. And I'm guilty of it too. I was talking to my mom the other day about it, where it was like I was getting stressed. I was like, oh, I gotta get back to LA, I gotta start working, you know. But I've been trying to do my best to just like be present and enjoy the time.
I get it, man. I totally do. But like at the same time, I love being that guy that's like works on Christmas, or like I love being that guy that like is in the gym Friday nights, or like whatever.
I did. I mean, I have been, and I think that it's good to do that sometimes. But like, I don't think that it actually makes you more effective. I think it makes you less effective overall.
I think you're totally right.
I think you think that like, this is what I gotta do, and on some level it is. Like, it's not bad to do that here and there, but I don't think the idea that like, you always have to be working to be successful is like the way to make you successful. Even though despite earlier in this podcast I mentioned that like, you gotta work harder than anybody else, right? But it's, time at your computer or time on your phone isn't necessarily the expression of harder work. I guess it's more like smarter work.
Wow.
It's not smarter to ignore your family and to be on your computer at Christmas, you know what I mean?
Totally.
And like, it's okay to take a second. I think that like when you're working, like that's when you have to work efficiently and effectively, and when you're not working, like don't work.
Yeah,
you know?
Totally. Dude, that's a gem.
Yeah.
That's a clip.
Yeah.
We're clipping that shit up.
Clip it.
I love it. Cole, thank you so much for your time, man. I really appreciate it.
Dude, thank you for having me.
It was amazing to meet you. I love to see Canadians abroad and killing shit. So I love to tell you what, next time you're here for next Christmas, we'll see where you're at, and maybe we'll connect.
Absolutely.
All right.
Love
Thank
it.
you guys. ThinkSpace.
Cool.
It's been another one.
Yeah. Peace.